Overcoming addiction by addressing trauma. Addiction is a complex, multifaceted issue that can often stem from deep-seated trauma. While addiction is commonly viewed through the lens of mental health or behavioral patterns, research and clinical experience increasingly point to trauma, whether physical, emotional, or psychological, as a significant root cause. Overcoming addiction is not simply about breaking the cycle of substance use or compulsive behavior. It's about healing the underlying wounds that led to these coping mechanisms in the first place. This production is part of an educational certification program series offered by Liberated Learning, the holistic wellness school of liberated living. While it was designed for our students, we've made it available to the public so that anyone can benefit from the insights of holistic health and wellness education. To learn more about our holistic health programs, continuing education, and professional development opportunities, or to explore how to become a licensed or board-certified professional, please follow the link provided or visit HolisticSchool.Online. A growing body of research in the fields of both addiction treatment and physical therapy emphasizes a crucial connection. The body keeps score. This means that unresolved trauma, whether it's a past abuse, an accident or injury, or emotional wound, often manifests as physical limitations or ailments. Physical therapists, particularly those trained in somatic practices, suggest that many physical issues, such as chronic pain, tension, or movement restrictions, can be traced back to unhealed emotional or psychological trauma that is stored in the body. The mind and body are not separate entities, and in many cases, trauma can live in the body, influencing behaviors, including those associated with addiction. Understanding the mind-body connection. When discussing addiction, it's important to recognize that it often serves as a coping mechanism for deeper emotional pain. The addiction is not the problem. It's a symptom of something much deeper. For instance, someone who suffered childhood abuse or neglect might use substances to numb the emotional pain that stems from these early adverse experiences. However, addiction rarely solves the issue. It just compounds it. The person may find temporary relief by escaping the pain, but the unresolved trauma remains, sometimes escalating the issue by creating another painful problem and often manifesting in physical symptoms. The work of Dr. Bessel van der Kolk, a leading expert on trauma, highlights the idea that trauma is not just a mental or emotional experience, but something that impacts the entire body. In his book, The Body Keeps the Score, he explains how traumatic experiences can become trapped in the body, influencing a person's emotional state, cognitive processes, and even their physical health. This trauma can prevent individuals from accessing the resources they need to heal, leading to maladaptive behaviors, including addiction. The role of trauma in addiction. Addiction often serves as a form of self-medication. For example, someone with unresolved emotional wounds may turn to alcohol, drugs, or other compulsive behaviors as a way of managing the pain. These substances may offer temporary relief, but they don't address the root cause, the trauma. Over time, the need for more of the substance increases, and the cycle of addiction becomes self-perpetuating. When trauma is not addressed, the cycle of addiction is almost guaranteed to continue, as the individual is constantly trying to escape or numb the pain. This is why traditional addiction treatments that focus solely on behavior change often fail to bring lasting results. If the trauma isn't dealt with, the person will continue to struggle with cravings, triggers, and relapse. Therefore, it's crucial to address trauma alongside addiction recovery in order to achieve lasting healing. Addiction often develops as a response to trauma, serving as a coping mechanism to manage emotional pain, stress, or unresolved memories. Here are some common examples of how different types of trauma can lead to addiction. Childhood abuse, physical, emotional, or sexual. Substance abuse, alcohol, drugs, eating disorders, or compulsive behaviors, such as gambling or shopping. Children who experience abuse often carry unresolved emotions from these traumatic events into adulthood. The abuse can create a deep sense of shame, fear, or inadequacy, which can lead individuals to turn to substances or addictive behaviors as a way to numb the emotional pain or avoid the memories. For example, alcohol or drugs might temporarily dull the intense feelings of fear, shame, or worthlessness caused by childhood abuse, neglect, or abandonment. Alcoholism, drug addiction, or compulsive behaviors like workaholism. Children who suffer from neglect or abandonment may grow up with a pervasive sense of unworthiness or emotional emptiness. they may struggle with attachment issues, which can manifest in difficulty forming healthy relationships and bonds or dealing with stress. To cope with feelings of loneliness or low self-esteem, individuals may turn to substances or behaviors that offer temporary relief, even if those solutions ultimately worsen their situation. Loss of a loved one or grief. Opioid addiction, alcohol abuse, or overeating. The death of a loved one or significant grief can trigger a deep emotional emptiness. Many individuals, in an attempt to fill that void or escape the pain of grief, may develop addictive behaviors. Drugs like opioids or alcohol can offer a temporary escape from the intense sorrow, but they also carry the risk of dependency and further emotional numbness. Combat or military trauma, PTSD. Addiction, example, prescription drug abuse, especially opioids or benzodiazepines, alcohol abuse, or self-destructive behaviors. Explanation. Combat trauma or post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, is a common precursor to addiction, especially among veterans. Flashbacks, nightmares, and emotional numbness can make individuals feel disconnected from reality. To manage these symptoms, some people turn to alcohol or prescription medications as a form of self-medication. However, these substances can create a cycle of dependency, making it harder for individuals to heal from their trauma. Domestic violence or intimate partner violence. Addiction, example, alcoholism, drug abuse, or eating disorders. Explanation. Individuals who experience domestic violence or intimate partner violence may feel trapped, powerless, or unable to escape their abuser. These feelings of helplessness or fear can lead to depression, anxiety, and the development of addictive behaviors. Substances like alcohol or drugs can provide temporary relief from feelings of fear, isolation, or helplessness, but they often perpetuate the cycle of trauma. Sexual assault or rape. Addiction, example, alcoholism, drug addiction, or compulsive sexual behaviors. Explanation. Survivors of sexual assault often experience deep feelings of violation resulting in shame, guilt, and fear. These emotional wounds can manifest in addiction as a way to dissociate from the trauma or avoid confronting painful memories. Substances such as alcohol or drugs may be used to numb feelings of violation, anxiety, or depression, while others may engage in compulsive sexual behaviors as a way to reclaim a sense of control or to cope with the trauma. Chronic illness or physical injury. Addiction example, opioid addiction, prescription drug abuse, or eating disorders. Explanation. Chronic illness or a serious physical injury can be deeply traumatic, not only because of the physical pain or limitation, but also the emotional toll it can take. Individuals who experience ongoing health issues may turn to pain medications, including opioids, to manage their discomfort. Over time, what starts as a necessary form of pain relief can evolve into addiction. Additionally, those who struggle with chronic illness may develop depression or anxiety, leading to further reliance on substances or unhealthy behaviors. Bullying or social rejection. Addiction, example, social media addiction, eating disorders, or substance abuse. Bullying is defined by the university as repeated mistreatment of an individual by verbal abuse, threatening, intimidating, humiliating conduct or sabotage that creates or promotes an adverse and counterproductive environment. Explanation. Experiences of bullying or social rejection, especially during adolescence, can create lasting emotional injury. People who are bullied often internalize the message that they are unworthy or unlovable, which can result in low self-esteem and a desire to escape the emotional pain. Adding an epigenetic angle, those who are more susceptible to bullying could have first been bullied by parents or siblings, for instance, in their upbringing brought on by familiar patterns. Eating disorders, like anorexia or bulimia, or turning to substances, like alcohol or drugs, may serve as ways to cope with the emotional hurt, while social media addiction may be used as a distraction or a way to seek validation from others. Natural disasters or accidents. Addiction example, prescription drug abuse, gambling, or compulsive behaviors like overwork. Explanation. Survivors of natural disasters or traumatic accidents can experience PTSD and significant emotional distress. The overwhelming feelings of loss, grief, and fear can lead to substance abuse or addictive behaviors as a means of coping with the trauma. For example, someone who survives a natural disaster might use sedatives to numb the overwhelming feelings of helplessness, or they might develop compulsive habits such as overworking to avoid confronting their emotions. Emotional or psychological abuse. Addiction example: drug addiction, alcohol abuse, or self-harm. Explanation: emotional abuse, such as constant criticism, gaslighting, or manipulation, can erode a person's sense of self-worth and emotional stability. Over time, this can lead to addiction as individuals attempt to cope with feelings of anxiety, depression, or low self-esteem. The desire to escape the constant emotional turmoil can manifest in harmful habits, such as substance abuse or even self-harming behaviors, in an attempt to regain control or numb the pain. The link between trauma and addiction. In each of these examples, addiction is often a way to avoid, numb, or escape from the emotional pain caused by trauma. The cycle of addiction is reinforced because the trauma remains unresolved, and the substance or behavior temporarily relieves the distress, but it doesn't address the core issues. To effectively break the cycle of addiction, it's crucial to confront and heal the underlying trauma. Therapy, support groups, trauma-informed care, and holistic practices like mindfulness, yoga, genetic recoding, and bodywork can help individuals process their pain and begin to heal on both an emotional and physical level. By addressing the trauma directly, individuals can work through the emotional wounds that fuel their addiction, leading to a more sustainable and fulfilling recovery. Compulsions and psychological addictions. Compulsions, whether related to eating, gambling, shopping, or even electronics, can also be influenced by epigenetic factors. Compulsive behaviors often serve as a coping mechanism for underlying emotional pain, stress, or unresolved trauma. Epigenetic mechanisms may help explain why some individuals are more prone to developing these behaviors and why they may be particularly difficult to break once they've taken root. Stress and anxiety pathways. For example, epigenetic changes related to stress response genes, like those regulating cortisol, the stress hormone, can make individuals more prone to anxiety, stress, and compulsive behaviors. Chronic stress or unresolved trauma can lead to lasting epigenetic changes that affect how a person's brain responds to stress in the future. This can drive compulsions as a form of emotional regulation or avoidance of uncomfortable feelings. The role of the prefrontal cortex. The prefrontal cortex is involved in impulse control, decision-making, and goal-directed behavior. Epigenetic changes affecting this area of the brain can influence an individual's ability to regulate urges or resist temptations. If this part of the brain becomes altered due to trauma or substance use, individuals might find it harder to break free from compulsive habits as their brain's wiring becomes more geared toward immediate gratification or avoiding distress. Trauma and epigenetic influence. One of the most significant findings in epigenetics is how trauma can leave lasting marks on genes, particularly in terms of how the body responds to stress. The way a person's genes are expressed in response to trauma can shape their behaviors and potentially make them more susceptible to compulsive patterns or addiction. Trauma and stress responses. Research has shown that early life trauma, such as abuse or neglect, can lead to changes in the expression of genes involved in regulating the stress response, e.g., the glucocorticoid receptor gene. These changes can affect how an individual reacts to stress, potentially leading to heightened anxiety, difficulty regulating emotions, and an increased likelihood of turning to substances or compulsive behaviors to cope. Transgenerational trauma. Epigenetic changes due to trauma can also affect future generations. For example, the descendants of Holocaust survivors, or individuals who have experienced war or chronic abuse, may have inherited epigenetic modifications that make them more sensitive to stress or more likely to engage in addictive behaviors. This phenomenon is known as epigenetic inheritance, where the effects of trauma can be passed down through generations without altering the genetic code itself. In these cases, epigenetics may explain why some individuals are more likely to engage in these behaviors than others. Dopamine and reward pathways. Epigenetic changes can influence the dopaminergic system, which plays a central role in the brain's reward circuit. After prolonged exposure to drugs or compulsive behaviors, the brain's reward system may become altered, requiring more significant stimulation, e.g., using more of a substance or engaging in a behavior more frequently, to achieve the same feeling of reward. This can lead to the reinforcement of compulsive behaviors, even if they cause harm. Chronic stress and substance use. The epigenetic alterations that occur as a result of chronic stress or trauma can make individuals more sensitive to stress or emotional triggers, thus increasing the likelihood of using substances or engaging in compulsive behaviors as a coping mechanism. Essentially, the more someone's stress response is modified by epigenetic changes, the more likely they are to engage in addictive behaviors to manage that heightened emotional state. Breaking the cycle: how epigenetic understanding can help. The good news is that while epigenetic changes can have lasting effects, they are not set in stone. The field of epigenetics also suggests that the environment and lifestyle choices can modify these epigenetic marks, which means that behaviors tied to addiction or compulsions can be changed over time. Therapeutic interventions. Therapy, especially trauma-informed therapies such as EMDR, somatic experiencing, or mindfulness-based approaches, can help rewire the brain and potentially reverse some of the epigenetic modifications caused by trauma. Addressing the root cause of addiction or compulsions, whether through healing trauma or improving emotional regulation, can lead to long-term changes in gene expression and ultimately a reduction in addictive behaviors. Healthy habits, nutrition, exercise, and stress reduction practices can also help reverse epigenetic patterns linked to compulsive behavior and addiction. These changes can influence the body's chemical processes in a way that promotes healing and breaks the cycle of addiction. Epigenetics offers a fascinating perspective on how behaviors and compulsions develop, particularly in the context of trauma and addiction. Environmental factors, such as stress, abuse, or substance use, can leave lasting marks on our genes, shaping our brains and influencing how we react to the world. Understanding these epigenetic patterns opens up new possibilities for healing, showing that with the right interventions, whether through therapy, lifestyle changes, or healing trauma, we have the ability to not only break free from compulsive behaviors, but also change the way our genes express themselves for future generations. Healing trauma to heal addiction. To effectively address addiction, the healing process must be multifaceted, involving both mental and physical recovery. Trauma recovery and addiction treatment need to work hand in hand, acknowledging the deep connections between the mind and the body. Somatic therapy and body work. As physical therapists and trauma specialists like Dr. van der Kolk suggest, the body holds trauma in a variety of ways. For example, tight muscles, chronic pain, and restricted movement can be manifestations of stored emotional distress. Body work techniques, such as massage, physical therapy, or yoga, can help release this stored trauma. These practices are particularly valuable for individuals in recovery, as they help to reconnect the body with the mind, allowing for the release of long-held emotional blockages. Yoga and mindfulness practices, in particular, help individuals increase awareness of their bodies and become attuned to physical sensations that may signal unresolved trauma. Therapy and trauma-informed care. Trauma-informed therapy can be immensely helpful in the healing process. Trauma-informed therapists recognize the impact of past trauma on behavior and approach clients with compassion and understanding. Genetic recoding, reframing techniques, and REM therapies such as eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, EMDR, are examples of effective modalities used to process traumatic memories. These therapies help individuals confront the pain of the past in a safe, structured way, reducing the emotional charge around those memories. Mindfulness and meditation. Mindfulness practices can help individuals who are struggling with addiction to regulate their emotions and deal with cravings. Mindfulness meditation allows individuals to sit with their emotions, thoughts, and sensations without judgment or the need to escape them. This is particularly useful for people in recovery, as it allows them to build resilience in the face of emotional triggers that may have previously led to substance use. Additionally, mindfulness can help reduce the physiological tension that often accompanies unhealed trauma, creating a sense of calm and presence. Genetic recoding. Genetic recoding is a therapy that combines a wide range of holistic and evidence-based psychotherapies and works by addressing core issues that stem from childhood conditioning, dysfunctional family dynamics, or belief systems that have been genetically transferred through generations to overcome self-defeating behaviors, relationship patterns, abuse, trauma, fear, anxiety, and negatively inherited subconscious programming. Psychodynamic therapy. Psychodynamic therapy delves into the root causes of issues, promoting lasting change rather than merely alleviating symptoms. It enhances self-awareness by bringing unconscious thoughts to consciousness and encourages resolving deep-seated conflicts. This approach supports healthier relationships and is suitable for a wide range of conditions, including depression, anxiety, personality disorders, and trauma. Perceptual reframing psychotherapy. Perceptual reframing therapies help reframe negative thought patterns and promote inner peace. Holistic psychotherapy. Holistic psychotherapies are therapeutic approaches that use various techniques such as mindfulness, nutrition, and mind-body practices to promote balance and healing across all aspects of an individual's life, creating a support system. Trauma recovery often involves rebuilding relationships and a sense of safety in the world. Support groups, peer counseling, and therapy are essential in this process. Having a community that understands the complex connection between trauma and addiction can be empowering and comforting. Peer support groups, such as those based on 12-step principles or trauma-informed recovery, can provide an environment where individuals can share their experiences and receive validation, which is crucial for healing. Integrating trauma recovery into addiction treatment. To truly break free from addiction, recovery must address both the mind and body. It's about moving beyond the surface behaviors and diving into the emotional and physiological scars that are holding the individual back. By addressing trauma, whether mental or physical, addiction recovery becomes more than just abstinence from substances or behaviors. It becomes an opportunity for profound healing and personal growth. While recovery is a lifelong process, taking a trauma-informed approach can lead to more sustainable healing. Instead of simply focusing on quitting a harmful habit, individuals can focus on healing the root causes of their behaviors, which often leads to lasting transformation. As individuals begin to address their trauma, they will find that the cravings, triggers, and emotional struggles associated with addiction become easier to manage, and eventually, the addiction itself begins to fade into the background as they rebuild a healthier, more fulfilling life. In conclusion, overcoming addiction is not just about the willpower to stop using a substance or engaging in compulsive behavior. It's about addressing the deeper issues that led to addiction in the first place. By healing the body and mind from the trauma that has been trapped within, individuals can break the cycle of addiction and reclaim their lives. It is through understanding the mind-body connection and taking a holistic, trauma-informed approach to recovery that true healing can occur. We hope you gained value today. At Liberated Learning, you can earn an internationally accredited certification from more than 40 holistic wellness programs, with pathways to provider licensing, board certification, and CEU PDUs for continuing education. To explore our full range of programs, follow the link provided or visit HolisticSchool.Online.